Now we're going to get a little bit more in depth into finding the intersection of two functions using the calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the intersection mode, but in order to intersect something, I need at least two functions. So what I'm going to do is go down here, turn back on one of my functions. Let's turn on the top function in this case. There it is. Go over, turn that equal sign so it's solid, and go back to our graph. Now, as you can see, there's my function, came down and went back up. So it intersected here and here. Now we can only find one at a time with this intersect feature. So I'm going to go to press the number 5. And it asks you, what is the first curve you want? Now if you press enter, it will take y1 to be the first curve you want. You may have 5 or more functions entered in memory. So it's good that you know, well, which one do I want to intersect? And you can always use the trace button to make sure, oh, there it is. That's the lower function. Press enter. That's the first curve. Then it moves on to another curve. It usually goes to y2. If we had y3 active as well, it would eventually give me that choice as well. So I'm going to say I want to go between these two functions. And then it says, what is your guess? And once again, it's going to take approximations. So if I choose a guess that's very close to this point, it will return that intersection point. Whereas if I choose a point way over here, it will return the intersection point close to it. Here it is, negative 0.888925 on the y-axis and 2.6665098 on the x. So there is the intersection point of those two. And if we wanted to, we could go to the table mode. I'm going to go to table set first. Here, let me clear it so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Second, table set, which is the window button. And you can set it up to automatically give you outputs. But what is nice sometimes is I have mine set to be ask for the independent variable. So I tell it what I want as an input, and it tells me what the output is. If you choose auto, here's what it does. It gives you a bunch of numbers starting with 0, going up by 1. You can see them here in the table. And it tells you all the inputs and outputs for y1, y2, and if we had other functions like y3 turned on, we could press the right arrow key and see all the values for it as well. The reason that I like the ask button is it allows me to kind of put in numbers like 2.6665 something, and let me press enter. And what you'll notice is the y value for y1 and for y2 is exactly the same, out to 4 decimal places, indicating from our graph the exact same thing that we saw. What we saw is that those two values intersected at about that point. Quitting and going back here, I'm going to go ahead and click on the x value. The reason I'll click on that x value is to show you that when you do the intersection, the minimum, the maximum, any of those pieces, when you click that, it stores the x coordinate as x in memory, which is this little button right here. So 2.66509.822 is out to as many decimal places as it can, the value of the intersection. Now this number could be rational or irrational. We don't know. So there's kind of how you go through most of the graphing pieces. For what we're going to be doing, I think that should about do it. There's a format button right above the zoom key, which allows you to turn on the rectangular or polar. The coordinates could be on or off as you move. You could turn the grid on or off. Currently I have my grid off. Seeing what that looks like if I turn it on will be imaged here. The grid allows you to have little dotted lines for each of the axis values that you have listed in your window. So my window currently is from -5 to 5 with an x value of every 1, and from -1.2 to 1.2 with a y scale of 1 as well. So if I went down here and changed this y scale to 0.4 and press enter, then it's going to give me a little tick mark over here, and my grid looks a little bit bigger. The grid's kind of nice at times, but it can make the screen very messy. So use caution with the grid feature. The axes could be turned on or off, so let's take a look at what that looks like. If I turn my axis off, you'll notice the axes go away. Again, the axes are arbitrarily defined to be the intersection at 0 of these two lines, the two real number lines that form our axis. So leaving those on is not a bad idea. Occasionally, if you turn them off, you can get a little bit more seeing just the curves themselves instead of seeing the other pieces. And then you can turn whether or not you want the labels on or off or the expressions on or off. And I urge you to just kind of leave it as it is in that case. So that's the first part of your calculator. You really want to get used to this? Grab it, spend some time, and play around with it. You can't break this thing by pushing buttons. So off you go. Have fun, and I will see you in class. We're done for now, but remember, this is your calculator. Play with it. You're not going to break it by pushing buttons, and we'll see you next time. Off you go.